Hello, this is Justin Ruger, host of Beekeeping with Disabilities and More. Today we have a special guest, Jonathan Bennett, who is also in a power wheelchair like I am. We will get him on as soon as we play the short clip. How are you doing today, Jonathan?
No, doing pretty good. How are you doing?
Doing well. Thank you for asking. I'm excited to have you on the channel and, release that you'll also be co-hosting this Beekeeping with Disabilities with me, and having you as a second interview has been exciting.
I'm excited to be part of this and hopefully encourage people to beekeep no matter what their ability level is here and share some different ways that me and you have come up to keep bees.
Yeah, there seems to be many people out there who are beekeeping with disabilities, and it's going to be interesting to find out how they all overcome and adapt.
Absolutely. I've been impressed with the amount of feedback you've got with your posts through the different social media groups of different people that do have varying disabilities.
So, what is your, or not, sorry, where do you live and how long have you been keeping bees?
I live in South Central Missouri, Kabul, Missouri. I'm about an hour east of Springfield, Missouri, hour and a half away from Branson. Started keeping bees last year. Got my first hive, two hives. I started out with two nukes last year, May 1st. I think it's the day that I got them, and looking forward to tackling my second year here.
Were they all Langstroth hives?
Yeah, what I started out with was the typical 10 frame Langstroth hives, and put my nukes in there, and then I've ventured into a few other ways of keeping too. One of them that's really intrigued me is the split uh, colonies that Michael Palmer does.
Yeah.
Basically, you take a 10 frame box and you have a divider in them, and you have four four frames on one side and four on the other, divided, and then you take nuke boxes and stack them up on that. And I didn't have very good luck with mine; they died out, but I started way too late with them. That's I guess that's part of learning as you go, knowing when you can do your splits and when you can't. Uh, a lot of my research has been on YouTube here and different social media groups. I've come up with ideas of what I wanted to try and do to expand oh midsummer or so. I just didn't get built up.
Okay, so we covered where you live from, or where you live at, sorry. And I'm curious, what is your disability? I know a lot of people who have been watching the channel know that I had a stroke and I have right-sided weakness. What is your disability and what limitations does it give you?
I was born with spina bifida. It's one of the most common disabilities being born with. Basically, it's where the spine does not completely close before birth, and it's a lot like a spinal cord injury. Uh, the varying levels of it, whatever it is along your spine, kind of reflects your abilities. So mine's a little bit lower. So I've got good upper body strength, dexterity on both sides. Um, I walked a lot with crutches as a kid, and as I've got older, my my shoulders just kind of gave out on that, and so I've gone to mainly using a wheelchair. I walk a little bit in the house here, but just for independence. Whenever you walk with crutches, you got both hands occupied. So sure can't beekeep and walk. Can't use my hands whenever I got crutches either side here. So
Yeah.
uh, and it's just quicker for me. Now I've got a pickup too that I drive from chair too, so that's make things a lot easier for me there too.
So you said your upper body strength is fine?
Yeah, I've got good upper body strength,
Okay,
regular
so
dexterity.
lifting the Langstroth hives is not really an issue for you as long as you can get close enough for them.
Yeah, I don't can't lift a full box really. Uh, I don't have complete strength in my back, I guess, but as far as my arms, I've got good strength. So one way I've kind of figured out to get by with that with a regular length strauss hive. And keep in mind, I don't have mine really built up. I mess around with them and split them, and but they're still going. But one of them, I have a super on that I was feeding for their reserves, and so I've got another super box that I put on a little wagon beside me. So I
Okay.
take out frames from the super that's on them and put it on that wagon box in the wagon, so I can lift that empty box and do my brood chamber inspection.
Okay, so you just take frames from one box to another.
Yeah, and then with the split hives, you got two or four other uh, frames on top of your brood box there, depending on how far you stack up. But so they're not as heavy to lift. It makes it quite a bit easier with them.
So are there any adaptations that you've made other than the lifting box or the box that you take frames from? Are there any other adaptations that you've made to help yourself beekeep?
That's been my main one right now. I'm looking into maybe getting a horizontal hive, giving that a try. Of course, that eliminates a lot of your lifting or all your lifting beside your frames there. And then I I want to play around with nukes. I want to make bees. I've got a pretty good order for honey, so I'm gonna have to make some honey. But I my main thing is I want to make bees. So lifting's gonna be a challenge at times, but not all the time. And I guess another thing that what I'm gonna do to kind of help out a little bit too with the honey harvest process, I'm gonna use flow frames. It's not necessarily the most popular among some beekeepers, but it's going to eliminate a lot of the process of taking the supers of honey off
Yeah.
and decapping the frames and spinning everything. And that's really what got me interested in beekeeping. Of course, I've been fascinated with bees for a long time, but here about a year ago, I seen the commercial on YouTube here for the flow hive. That's the first time I've ever seen it. I thought, well, if you just turn that little key and your honey comes out, then surely I can do that. Of course, getting into it, I found out that there's a lot more to beekeeping than putting bees in a box and turning the key in a flow hive. But that is what got me interested in it, and I I continue to learn every day something new about them.
Yeah, exactly. So just to reiterate, you have somebody for honey and you're more interested in rearing bees.
Yeah, that's kind of the direction I was going to go this year was rearing bees, but I've got a local restaurant that's approached me, and their their main goal is to do farm to table products.
Yes.
And their honey is one thing that they're not able to locally source or hadn't found a local source yet. So I had a former coworker that's now their cook at that restaurant, and she said, I know you got bees. Can we get some honey?" And so I'm gonna try and provide them honey. I don't know how much I'll get made for them, but of course that varies with the weather. Some years I know some people don't hardly get any honey, and some years you got to run out of years. And I know it ain't gonna be hard to get rid of because as soon as people know you got bees, bees mean honey, so they come knocking your door down.
That's all they want when they find out you have bees is your honey.
Exactly.
So, one issue I have in weather, I mean, we're in Virginia, so the
Mm,
weather is either freezing hot or, sorry, either freezing cold or really hot,
mm,
and wet. So,
mm.
what do you do when you can't get to the hives? Do you have something that helps you, or do they just kind of have to hang out until you can get your power chair out there?
The bees kind of just gotta fend for themselves when I'm not able to get to them. I've had some cases where I tried to get to them where the ground was too soft and got stuck and had to call for help then. But that's another thing that I really enjoy about them is as well as I do, your independence is something that's really valuable to you. Whatever that's limited to you, to be able to go out and do something yourself. That's
Hmm.
a valuable thing. So the bees were that's another appeal to me is I thought, well, I can go do this myself. I and working the bees. A lot of people say it's a really relaxing, almost meditative kind of deal just to be able to inspect your bees. So just having something that I can do myself, it's been great.
So, what does your typical hive inspection look like?
I I probably look for the queen too much compared to what they tell you to do, but of course that one hive that had the super on it, just taking the frames out and getting down into the brood box and seeing what's going on in there and putting it all back together and hoping the bees don't get too mad at me.
Is there anything that you've done this off season that you wish you would have done your first year to help prepare and adapt with your limitations?
Not so much with adaptations, but I've I've done a lot more research through the off season here and hopefully have a better understanding of what I'm gonna need to do to in the upcoming season just to get the bees prepared to make honey and build them up. That's one of my biggest downfalls last year. I thought you put the bees out in a box and they done their own thing. Well, I quickly found out in a couple weeks that they weren't going to build up if I wasn't going to feed. And during that time, there's a lot of rain, so bees can't
All
fly
the
when it's
pollen was
raining.
washed
So
away.
yeah, no pollen form, no nectar form. They can't go out and collect nectar to build wax and honey whenever it's raining. So that's one thing I'm gonna really focus on here before too long is really to just get to feeding.
Yeah, it's important to feed your bees, and I know a lot of people have issues with the full hive because they go into it with that kind of mindset that the bees will for themselves, and you can just
Mm-hmm.
kind of place a box on top, and then you don't have to worry about them until they provide you with the honey. But I've learned a lot from a lot of different beekeepers, including my mother, who showed you it has shown me that there's a lot of work involved.
And there is a lot of work. And the person I got my nukes from, I asked her, I said, "Do I need to feed them?" She said, "Well, you don't have to." But like I said, I quickly found out that, especially with the weather we had last year, I hope it's been really rainy here and had some winter weather here recently. But I'm hoping that the spring will be a little bit better for them and maybe they can do their own thing a little bit more. But I'm definitely going to provide a lot more for them. Maybe check out a few products that's been coming out here lately. There's that fondant that everybody's going crazy about.
Hive Life
Yeah,
or
Hive
Hive
Life.
Alive?
Yeah, Hive Life fondant. Then there's that liquid supplement too. So I might try that. See how that works out for me.
And do you just feed 1-to-1 or 2-to-1?
Yeah, I've been feeding 1-to-1s, but I've been feeding.
And do you do an open feeder or put it on the hive?
I usually put it on the hive. The round rapid feeders. Have you ever seen them?
Yeah, with a white
Goes
lid and
over
the
a little
blue
feeder
bottom.
hole, and it's got a thing in the center where they come up through.
Yeah.
That's what I've been using as a rabbit feeder. And I fed some last year, but I wasn't quite as adamant as I should have been keeping feed on them. So that ain't good
Okay.
sometimes. But I definitely need to keep feeding more. Buy a lot of
Was there
sugar.
any? Sorry, buy a lot of sugar. Yes,
Yeah,
the most expensive purchase.
yeah.
So before we continue on, is there anything else that you would like to share about your situation or how you keep bees?
Can't think of anything right now. I'm sure something might come up in conversation as we go here, but I can't think of anything else.
Okay,
I guess I could mention I do have a pretty neat track chair that helps me get around wherever it works. So it's pretty
nice.
beat up, but where one of the tracks come off on me every now and then, but it helps a
It's
lot.
farm. It's farm strong.
Yeah.
So yes. So why I was asking is now that we're moving on, you're going to be the co-host with me, and I'm actually really excited to have you.
I'm excited to be along for the journey here.
And I wanted to talk a little bit about the schedule so that those who are viewing this later or live can know who's coming up. We actually have a couple blind beekeepers coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, sorry, I'm trying to open up the calendar. There it is. So in March, we have a blind beekeeper. We have two blind beekeepers, sorry, on March 9th and March 16th. We have a someone with cerebral palsy on March
Mm-hmm.
23rd, and we have the Ricky and Ruth from Horizontal Bees.
Mm-hmm.
They were at the Hive Life conference, and they live in North Carolina. They'll be joining us on the 30th.
Definitely look forward to talking to them about their horizontal hives.
Yeah, I had a phone call with him a couple days ago, and it was really exciting. He's excited to be on there. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, people are always nervous about going on live.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's March. April's also exciting. We have an author, Frank Mortimer. He the book he wrote will actually be here, and I'll be talking a little bit about it after I read it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we have some older beekeepers. We have the Rob Pollock from Laura Bees,
Mm-hmm.
the oxalic acid vaporizer,
Mm-hmm.
and then we have Fred Air on May 4th is a guy from the United Kingdom who actually their beekeeping association actually built up a special hive for disabled people,
Oh wow,
disabled
that'll be
beekeepers.
interesting.
So it'll
Mm-hmm.
be interesting. We have some connections with the extension in
Mm-hmm.
Michigan that we're working on. So it's going to be a good platform for people to come on and share their disabilities, their limitations, how they've adapted.
Mm-hmm.
Businesses to come on and talk about how beekeepers can use their products with
Mm-hmm.
limitations.
Look forward to talking to with the blind people. I'm sure they have people that help them for sure, but be interesting to see how they enjoy the hobby too.
Yep. So if there's nothing else, I think that's all the questions I have today. And I appreciate you being here, and I look forward to working with you more over the
Yeah,
next few months.
I appreciate you inviting me to be along for the show here, and I have
Well, you know exactly what I'm feeling when I try to get out there and get
oh
stuck in
yeah,
the mud, or get to the bees.
that can certainly be a frustration, and I don't have any videos right now, but I hope to record some videos here before too long when the weather kind of cooperates and bee season kind of starts off here. And I won't have anything fancy to offer people, but at least they'll be able to see what I do in action here.
Okay, we have a question here from Frank Moore. He says, "What level of hardships are beekeepers trying to get around?" Um, you know, for me as a disabled person, mobility, the trying to lift things that I can't lift because I had a stroke and my entire right side was affected.
Hmm.
The weather is a hardship. The Sometimes being a disabled beekeeper costs, so we have to, we don't always have a lot of money to do a hobby. So it becomes the way of life as you learn more
Hmm.
and more about how to extend your how do I say this? To extend your success.
Hmm. I
What
think
about you? What
one of the biggest hardships for me is just the simple fact of having difficulty getting around. Um, like I said, we've had snow, rain, ice here lately, and the ground is an absolutely muddy mess out here. And so if I was to try and get out there now, I get stuck
Yeah.
for sure. So that's one of my biggest things, just the mobility issues of trying to get out there and get to the bees.
So when you have these issues with getting outside, if you do get stuck, because I just got my power chair. I had the stroke in October 2020, but
Mm,
it took them, 2 years to actually get me my power chair. Who do you call?
mm. I I live with my grandmother, so she's able to. She's not any spring chicken, but she's able to usually help me get around. And I've got other family around. If me and her can't get me out of my predicament that I get myself into, so got
So
a lot of family around.
we're not calling the fire department yet.
No, no, that'd be absolutely the last resort there. I used to actually dispatch for 911, so I've I've dealt with calls like that, and it never comes at a convenient time. It's always whenever stuff's going on in other places, and you got resources there, and don't necessarily have extra resources for something like that. But luckily, I hadn't ran into that yet.
So Frank also said, could a remote controlled chair hive that brings the hive to you help?
It's an interesting idea. I'll have to
I've
see if
never
we can
thought
get some.
about that.
I hadn't either.
It would be interesting to have them on a platform where they're screwed into the base and it actually
Hmm.
has wheels that it will drive to like the side of a road for you.
Yeah, I could definitely get to our driveway. It's hard packed, so that would certainly help me out a lot there, especially in times like this. But I don't know if the bees would much enjoy the ride, but I'd say I'd say something like that would really help somebody out with our problems that have mobility issues.
That's actually a good idea. I live in Virginia, about 45 minutes north of the University of Virginia,
Hmm.
and we have someone who has an into their fabrication department.
Hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see what they can come up with if that's something that is possible.
It would be. It'd be a good idea to pitch to them to see if they can come up with something there. Something that's cost effective too. I know you know as well as I do. Anything that has to do with disabilities makes our lives anywhere near normal or more convenient is pretty cost prohibitive for a lot of us.
Oh yeah, it's very expensive.
Hmm.
I mean, new power chair is like a brand new car.
Oh yeah, price tag on the last one I got, I think it was 30 grand or something like that, and that's stupid. Another thing that I think could be an asset to us if it could be modified. I know you watch Cayman and some of the other beekeepers. Can't remember who the other ones that I've seen that had it, but it's kind of a dolly that lifts up their hives for them. We could get something that's a little bit shorter to work from a wheelchair. That'd be pretty awesome too.
You mean attached to the power wheelchair or something that we just push in front of us?
Something that just push in front of us, like that dolly that they use for moving the hives around.
Yeah, I actually have. I sent an email out to Adam in Michigan. He works with the Agro-Ability. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's AGR Ability. They work together to make homesteading and beekeeping available for those with disabilities. So
Mm-hmm.
he also works with Heroes to Hives, which is Michigan State's program.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to be talking to him soon, and I hope that he has some availability. Send me some links that I'll put in the description box that we can watch on YouTube that
Okay.
show some of the adaptation and hardware that they've created to allow us to be beekeepers.
Mm-hmm. I hadn't really considered that. I know that there's the agri-ability out there that modifies different farm equipment for people with disabilities, and I know they offer low interest loans for different modifications too. So that would will be interesting to talk to him and see what they can offer us there. I think Frank has another question there. Is opening a hive a chore? I was thinking of filling a cabinet of bees with drawers. So kind of like the I can't remember as a Slovakian beehive
The
or
Slovakian AZ,
yeah,
the Slovenian.
Slovenian. There you go. That is kind of a neat idea there. I hadn't looked into that a whole lot, but something like that might be pretty handy too. I personally don't have any problems getting into the hive, as long as it isn't too tall for me or anything to where it's over my head. But I I hadn't had any problems actually getting into the hive yet.
Yeah, so there's actually a Slovenian American who runs a company here in Alexandria, Virginia, and
Hmm.
I was on the phone with her yesterday. So I'm hoping to have her on the channel so that she can tell us about how they work. The Slovenia AZ hives, you lift out the frames, you put them in a house, like a shed or
Hmm.
something, and then they go out the front of the hive, but the front of the hive is a closed box, and the
Hmm.
back of the hive is actually what opens like a door.
Hmm.
And then you pull the frames out like you pull a book out of a bookshelf rather
Hmm.
than having so there's no lifting of heavy boxes. You're um lifting 6 pound frames instead of 10 pound or 80 pound boxes.
Hmm. So that might be a good option along with the horizontal hives too to have a hive like that. Do you know, do they use foundationless frames in them, or do they use foundation frames, or does it vary?
Both. So she'll have to tell us more, but I know the traditional Sylvanian hives, their frames are bigger than
Mm-hmm.
what the United States extractors use.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go on Etsy and try to buy a standard Sylvanian AZ hive, the frames are going to be deeper than a Langstroth deep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that may be a problem there. That extra weight. I know. I usually am out in front of me, kind of bent over, so the real heavy frames that can be kind of heavy for me. So that may be a little heavy for me, but that'd be interesting to explore for sure. Looks like we got Ian Sepler here, Canadian beekeeper. Ian, I'm going to be in the Missouri conference. Look forward to your presentation there.
Yeah, I think he's going to be at Hive for Heroes this weekend on March 5th. Him and
Mm-hmm.
Cayman Reynolds are going to be there.
Yeah. How's the snow up there in Canada? Have you guys dug out of that big old snow you had there?
I don't know if he's still here, but so
He may not be.
that's kind of what we've been looking into is the different type of hive types, how people have
Mm-hmm.
adapted to using them. Some people have started like Ricky from Horizontal Bees. They actually started from scratch and built their hives, designed their own plans.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll be on here on the 30th of March to actually tell us more.
Yeah. Look forward to that. It's going to be like I said, I'm in my second year here, so there's a lot of trial and error yet. And it'll just be a matter of finding out what really works for me. I I think the horizontal hive would really be a good way to go. There's so much you can do with them too. The one that I may be potentially purchasing, I said that I was interested in rearing bees, and you can actually keep 3 colonies in this particular one. It's got 3 different entrances, and you keep a divider board in them, in each one of them there. And horizontal hives, I got the one with all the nukes in it. I think that'd really be neat. You can set that thing up into being a one big hive, or I think there's 6 different nukes you can put in it.
Yeah, we wish you
Yeah,
could be
I'd
there
really like
too,
to
man.
be at the hives for heroes there.
Well, I know you can for the Hives for Heroes conference. You can actually go and buy a virtual ticket,
Really, I'll have to look into that for
and
sure.
yeah, they'll be recording the whole thing, and you can buy a virtual ticket. I actually interviewed Steve, one of the co-founders of Hives for Heroes, yesterday,
Hmm.
so that's also on our YouTube channel. Glad we're not being buried in snow like Ian is.
Yeah, our biggest snow we got here, we got wedge drifts that were probably 2 foot tall, and that was a lot for us here. We've had a lot of wind precipitation for us here in the southern part of the Ozarks here.
Well, I think that's about it. I thank everyone for watching, and thanks for chatting with us. And you guys have had some great options or great suggestions that I hope to talk to manufacturers about with the AGRA ability groups and the fabrication labs here in colleges to try to build something that's more cost effective and
Mm,
affordable for not just disabled beekeepers, but beekeepers that are becoming up in age.
absolutely. Yeah, and I one thing I like to mention, I'm wanting to be more involved with the YouTube community here, and I'm sure you get it just as well as I do, Justin. People call you an inspiration. That's all right for me to be an inspiration, people, but I don't really set out to be an inspiration, but I do want to be encouraging to people of all abilities to get out there and beekeep. There's no reason a lot of people can't do it. You can adapt to it. And,
Well, I mean, when I started this channel, my goal was to learn from myself.
mm-hmm,
I didn't know about Sylvania AZ hives. I heard mention of a top bar hive. At the Hive Life conference, I actually saw my first horizontal hive. So
mm-hmm,
everything we did was Langstroth, and all the videos that I watched were using Langstroth hives. So when I wasn't able to lift them anymore, it kind of put me into a position where I had to learn more. And
mm-hmm.
I created this platform so that other people in my situation can go to one place and learn from many people.
Yeah.
So we'll actually be here next Wednesday with Ariel Gilbert. She's a blind beekeeper out of California,
Mm-hmm.
and that will be um, I'm gonna try to make it 7 p.m.
All right. And if you guys aren't able to move at all, I'll join you whenever I can get here from work. Then, and anybody that's out there watching this, go and watch the stream team after a while here. They're going live at 7 p.m. Central Time, I believe.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you being here, and I'm excited to have you as a co-host. And thank you for spending the last 40 minutes with us. And everybody in the comments, thank you for commenting and being part of this live stream.
All right.
All right. Bye.
Have a good evening.
You too.